I appreciate being with people who understand the importance of faith, family, hard work, good values. I like to remind people every day is Earth Day if you make a living off the land. I've got a few suggestions for you when you go up to Capitol Hill.
President Bush speaks to cattlemen about policies, taxes, trade, and national security.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello, I'm Susie Ross. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. In this week's cattle industry news, USDA must decide if it will appeal a court decision allowing private testing of cattle for BSE. NCBA has opposed private tests because blanket testing is not necessary or effective for controlling the disease. For that reason, most countries have moved away from BSE testing for all cattle, so it is doubtful the practice would open any new export markets for U.S. beef. Some new trade agreements could provide a boost for beef exports. NCBA is urging Congress to approve agreements with Colombia, Peru, and Panama.
We've got 3 trade agreements that we've got done that we need to get ratified, that have been ratified by Panama. They're working on it, Peru and Colombia. These agreements, you say, well, these are not major beef markets. No, they're not, but they're probably the best negotiated deals for beef that we've ever had.
Trade and BSE were just 2 of the topics on President George Bush's agenda when he addressed cattlemen at the NCBA Spring Legislative Conference. President Bush spoke to more than 200 NCBA members for nearly an hour about a variety of topics. But the conference took center stage in the national news media when the president's comments turned to foreign policy and security. During his speech, the president took the opportunity to discuss the war in Iraq and his plan to veto House and Senate bills calling for a withdrawal of U.S. troops.
The consequences of imposing such a specific and random date for withdrawal would be disastrous. If the House bill becomes law, our enemies in Iraq would simply have to mark their calendars.
The president also expressed frustration about what had been added to the wartime legislation.
There's $6.4 million for the House of Representatives' salaries and expenses account. I don't know what that is, but it is not related to the war and protecting the United States of America. Our troops in Iraq deserve the full support of the Congress and the full support of this nation.
But security wasn't the only thing on the president's agenda. He also addressed a variety of issues important to agriculture. Cattlemen to Cattlemen's Jim Witt reports.
President Bush had strong opinions on taxes.
And I believe the heart of good economic policy is keeping people's taxes low. The reason I say that is there's a fundamental debate in Washington when you really get down to it, and the debate is who best to spend your money. And I believe a cattleman can spend their money better than the government can. Now, one of the taxes that concerns you a lot, I know, is the death tax. It should. You get taxed while you're living, and then you get taxed after you die.
The death tax is eliminated in 2010, but under current law, it comes back in 2011.
Which puts people in an awkward position in 2010. I really believe Congress needs to pay attention to the effects of the death tax on our farmers and ranchers. If people are concerned about keeping land in the hands of the family rancher, the best way to do so is to get rid of the death tax for those who ranch the land, once and for all. There's no excuse not to get rid of it. Now you'll hear people say, we don't want to give tax relief to the billionaires. Okay, fine. But let's put a bill on the president's desk that respects the ranchers of the United States of America and the farmers and the small business owners, and I'll sign it.
Also in his speech, the 2007 Farm Bill, President Bush spoke to cattlemen about the proposal his administration has put on the table for Congress to consider.
We asked for a $17 billion increase in conservation spending over a 10-year period.
These additional dollars include a 30% increase for USDA's Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or EQIP. EQIP provides financial and technical help to farmers and ranchers.
I think this is a wise use of our money. I'm interested in a farm bill that enhances conservation, that recognizes the contribution our ranchers make, that is fair, that is reform-oriented, and helps us compete in the global marketplace.
Colin Peterson, chair of the House Ag Committee, also spoke to the cattlemen about the Farm Bill. Peterson, a Democrat from Minnesota, will head up the bill's development for the House of Representatives.
We're planning on getting the bill out of the House Ag Committee by the 4th of July break, having it passed on the floor by the August recess, and then spending August and September, early part, getting it conferenced, and then getting it to the President by before September 30th when the current bill expires. So
you can read the entire Farm Bill proposal at usda.gov/Farm Bill. Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, big trade negotiations are coming up for the United States. Hear what Congress needs to do to keep America strong at the negotiating table. Plus,
they literally have to go over every square inch of the hotel to make sure it's secure.
A behind-the-scenes look at preparing for a presidential visit. And the president of NCBA gets some FaceTime with the president of the USA. But first, here's a look at this week's market summary provided by CattleFax.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
To some, it's just a pasture. But to you, it's part of a livelihood to be passed along. That's why Fort Dodge Animal Health developed Sidectin with pasture health in mind. Sidectin protects against performance-robbing internal and external parasites. And it's the only insecticide proven to have no adverse effects on beneficial dung beetle populations. Sidectin from Fort Dodge Animal Health, protecting your herd and your pasture, so they can both be passed along.
There ain't no bugs on me. There ain't no bugs on me. There may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
Canine Advantix is the one that repels and kills disease-spreading fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. Frontline Plus doesn't repel and isn't effective against mosquitoes. So ask your veterinarian for Canine Advantix, the one that repels and kills.
Yeah, there may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
And now, this week's Management Minute.
Many producers ask, what are some of the benefits to artificial insemination? Artificial insemination, or AI, of beef females allows you access to genetics that you may not have the opportunity to purchase and use via natural service. You would have access to genetics of a number of different breeds that may complement the breed makeup of your herd. Many times, estrus synchronization and AI are used together, and this can be used to reduce the length of the calving season, and calves have the potential to be more uniform at weaning. When using AI, you'll need to have the facilities and labor to accomplish this management practice.
Welcome back to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We're continuing our look at Bush administration policies. Let's now turn to a major issue affecting the cattle industry, international trade. NCBA policy calls for breaking down trade barriers for U.S. exports, a feeling clearly shared by the president.
I happen to believe competition is good. I believe competition brings out the best in everybody. So I don't mind competition so long as the playing rules are fair. My attitude on trade is, you treat us the way we treat you. And then let's compete. 2006, exports of beef and beef products totaled more than $2 billion. That's a nearly a 50% increase from 2005. It's not at the levels we want, but there has been some improvement in sales. And that's important for you. The more markets there are that are open for your product, the easier it's going to be for you to make a living. And I understand that. And it's important for Congress to understand that as well.
While the trade picture is improving, President Bush says he's far from satisfied.
Today, more than 100 countries have fully or partially opened their markets to U.S. beef. The objective of this administration, however, is to make sure that they're not better than partially opened. They're fully open, including to countries like Japan and Korea. We're also working to open up markets that have still got a ban on our imports. In other words, this is an important part of our foreign policy. When I'm talking to leaders and they've got an issue with American beef, it's on the agenda. So if you want to get the attention of the American people in a positive way, you open up your markets to U.S. beef. We got an opportunity to expand open up further markets by expanding trade through the Doha round of the World Trade Organization. It gives us a chance to level the playing field. It gives us a chance so that I can say to our cattle raisers and others that you'll be treated fairly.
But the president warns trade negotiations won't get far unless Congress renews his trade promotion authority.
The only way that we can complete Doha and make headway on other trade agreements, however, is for Congress to extend trade promotion authority. This authority allows the president to negotiate complicated trade deals and then send them to the United States Congress for an up or down vote on the whole agreement.
The most important thing about trade promotion authority is the fact that if we don't have it and other countries, our customers, are going to go elsewhere and negotiate with our competition. The best example I can give you right now is within days, Japan is going to enter into FTA or free trade agreement talks with the Australians. That allows Australia to carve out a market that should be ours.
Presidents of both parties have considered this an incredibly important tool for completing trade agreements. In other words, our trade partners have got to say, if that's the deal we negotiate, that's the one that somebody's going to have to vote up or down on.
When the president doesn't have trade promotion authority is that it dilutes his ability to negotiate the best deal possible for us in a free trade agreement. And it eliminates the trust in the negotiations between him and his counterpart, because his counterpart knows that he's got to go ask permission for that agreement to be final. So it's like us making a deal and then having to go ask our mama if it's okay to make that deal.
And yet, this authority will expire on July the 1st, unless Congress acts. And I want to thank the National Cattlemen's Beef Association for joining with the administration and other organizations in urging the Congress to renew trade promotion authority.
NCBA is actively urging Congress to renew President Bush's trade promotion authority before the July 1st deadline. But cattlemen's support for TPA isn't limited to this administration. NCBA strongly supported this authority for President Clinton and says it will be an essential trade tool for the next president as well. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, the chance to meet a United States president. Next, a look at how a presidential experience comes to life and the work it takes to pull it off. We'll be right back.
In 1874, an innovation changed the beef industry forever. It was called barbed wire, and it brought an end to open-range grazing and began a whole new era of cattle management. Today, there's another breakthrough innovation changing the beef industry. It's called Draxxin, and it's one more way Pfizer Animal Health is working with veterinarians and cattlemen to open up a whole new era in animal health. To learn more about Draxxin, talk to your veterinarian.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
Hi, my name is Steve Scott and I'm from Prospect, Tennessee, and you're watching Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Welcome back to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. When a United States president stops by for a visit, it means hours of preparation and major last-minute scrambling. We turn to Jim Witt for a behind-the-scenes tour.
Just a few days before the spring conference on the Capitol, NCBA was contacted with surprise news that the president wanted to speak with visiting cattle producers in person.
Very rarely do you ever get enough advance notice. Usually it's within 2 weeks. This is my second presidential visit that I've helped organize. And it kind of puts you into an organized panic mode.
On the night before the president's visit, dozens were fast converting the Capitol Hill Hotel meeting room.
They actually built a special stage for us because the White House required a 12-inch stage, which Freeman didn't have, so they had to build one. It's amazing the people, come to a meeting and they don't know what goes on behind the scenes to make the meeting happen and make it smooth, and so you don't have any glitches and everything. There's a lot. You just take that and kind of magnify it by about 100. And that's how I explain a presidential visit.
So what's going to happen is the president's going to enter from this area over here, come up on the stage, and he's going to walk behind this pipe and drape. So getting the stage laid, the carpet down, and all the audiovisual set up.
The advance team goes through great lengths to make sure the president is protected wherever he goes.
They literally have to go over every square inch of the hotel to make sure it's secure.
Before the event, you have no idea whether the president will be able to stop and shake hands.
Even his advance team can't guarantee that he will approach the rope line after his speech.
The next morning, the president surprised everyone with an extra long speech and time for handshakes and autographs.
And to have the president spend 1 hour with us and give us his thoughts and comments to the cattlemen across this country for a full hour was just really impressive. He was well received, and it was wonderful to have him here.
Preparing for the president took a White House advance team and a large number of NCBA staff to get the job done. For many of us, speaking in front of a large group of people can be pretty intimidating. How about doing it with the president looking over your shoulder? We'll hear from NCBA President John Queen on his experience next.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
We've never had a president like this for many, many years who understands our issues.
It's quite an experience. It's really part of this association to think that you're just 10 feet away from probably one of the most powerful men, if not the powerful man in the world.
I was pretty impressed when I got to see the governor. So the president of the United States is an absolutely amazing opportunity.
Well, it's just amazing to be sitting by the main man, looking him right in the eye.
The message he gave was very clear. He spoke to us as ranchers and farmers. He spoke to us as Americans, and he certainly touched a lot of the heartstring issues that are important to all of us.
What I've always said about George Bush is that when you sit down with him, I don't have to give him a 20-minute briefing on what's going on. He knows agriculture.
George Bush joins a long list of presidents that have visited with cattle industry members. Joining us is someone who's had several opportunities to meet with the president, NCBA's Chief Executive Officer, Terry Stokes. Welcome, Terry.
Oh, thanks, Susie. It's good to be here with you today.
Excellent. This president has had a special relationship with cattlemen, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. You know, it's interesting how comfortable he is speaking to our group. This is the second time that we've had him visit with us. And you know, it was interesting, the day after he spoke to us, Secretary Johanns shared with our group the fact that, you know, this president is very interested in the cattle industry. When he meets with him, he's always asking questions of him. We've had a number of occasions to visit with some of the White House staff about key issues. So we're very fortunate to have a friend in the White House that is an advocate for the beef industry.
How has President Bush made a difference to cattlemen?
If you look at the 4 key principles that NCBA stands on: limited government involvement, free, fair, and reliable trade, protection of property rights, and a free enterprise market system that allows our cattlemen to market their product the way they want to, he embraces those 4 principles. He's done it through tax reform, as we've seen repeal of the death tax, and we hope that that becomes permanent. We've also seen it through his trade initiatives, particularly since 2003 with the occurrence of BSE, is that his administration's worked nonstop to get those markets reopened for cattlemen. And he's been an advocate for property rights for our beef producers as well.
Is having this kind of access a new thing for NCBA?
Well, not really, and I think that's a myth about the organization, is that when you look at NCBA, next year we celebrate our 110th anniversary. So over the last 110 years, we've had the privilege of working with presidents that have been both Democrat and Republican. If you walk the halls of our office, you'll see our leadership with their picture taken with different presidents from each of the parties. And at this meeting, just prior to the president speaking, we had the privilege of having Congressman Colin Peterson, who's chairman of the House Ag Committee, and a Democrat, speak to our group about the Farm Bill. So we've had the privilege to work with both sides of the aisle on key issues facing cattlemen.
Fantastic. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
To learn more about NCBA and how to get involved, go to cattlemen2cattlemen.org. Imagine being the guy who gets to introduce the President of the United States. And imagine doing it with the President looking over your shoulder the entire time. It happened to NCBA President John Queen.
Ladies and gentlemen, President of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, John Queen. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
President Bush is very understanding of rural America, and he understands the importance of rural America, especially the cattle and beef industries, not only to our nation's economy, but to our nation's way of life. George W. Bush.
All right. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Please be seated. Not a bad introduction by a cowboy.
Well, this has probably been the greatest honor of my life, is getting to introduce the President of the United States to my fellow cattlemen around America.
Thanks, John. We think you did a great job. For this week's Legacy Photos, we wanted to give you a little slice of history and take a look at NCBA's previous meetings with past U.S. presidents. Take a look. Please keep sending those photos. We're also looking for pictures of branding season on your operation. Head to cattlemen2cattlemen.org and don't forget to include those details about your photo. Next week, the Cattle Learning Center has tips on working with your veterinarian to keep your herd healthy. Plus, a look at this year's planting conditions. And as always, the latest industry news and market information. Thanks for joining us on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Be sure to tune in next week. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time right here on RFD TV.